Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're diving into a literal microscopic battle happening all around us, every single second of the day. It's this massive, ongoing tension between human engineering and the absolutely relentless forces of nature. We're going to explore the circular life of buildings and how we can actually design out obsolescence just by keeping our structures standing strong. Seriously, I want you to picture a fast-forward time-lapse of a building right in your own city. Imagine decades of driving rain, freezing snow, and baking summer sun just hitting it on repeat. What is actually going on with those concrete walls, those steel beams, and those plastic fixtures over a full century? Well, the wild reality is that microscopic decay is constant. A building might look like a totally static object when you walk past it with your morning coffee, but it is actively reacting to its environment. We're talking about an invisible, second-by-second degradation that's constantly threatening the integrity of the materials we rely on. Because, let's face it, nature never sleeps. You might not notice the tiny bit of moisture creeping into a microscopic crack in the mortar, or UV rays literally baking the chemical makeup of a plastic facade, but the elements are completely relentless. Keeping a building safe, functional, and valuable, that's a massive, heroic effort. So that brings us to the core mission of today's explainer, Strategy 2, preserving what we have. If we're looking at the big picture of a circular economy, this is all about hitting the brakes on the resource loop. Instead of the old-school linear mindset, take, make, and then just demolish, we need to maintain existing structures and extend their lives for as long as technically possible. And this is a real game changer. When we talk about construction emissions, we have to look at embodied carbon, all those greenhouse gases baked into extracting, manufacturing, and shipping materials in the first place. Get this, preserving our existing buildings can slash that embodied carbon by a massive 10 to 20%. And the kicker? We can pull this off without even increasing capital costs. It's an incredible win for both the environment and the economy.
Part 1. The Art of Maintenance, our relentless fight against decay.
It's honestly wild when you look at the sheer variety of threats buildings face every single day. We aren't just fighting off one enemy here. We've got sneaky moisture breeding moss and fungal growth. We're dealing with intense UV light from the sun that straight up destroys the mechanical properties of plastics used on the exterior. Plus, you've got high wind velocities that can literally uproot facade panels, and just general weathering that leads to structural defects over time. So what's our primary defense? A rock-solid maintenance schedule. To keep up with nature, we have to be periodic and timely. The defense strategy scales up methodically, starting with quick weekly check-ins, moving to heavier monthly tasks, all the way up to major annual overhauls. Let's zoom in on that weekly frontline defense. These are the quick, routine checks that stop a total disaster before it even starts. We're talking about inspecting lighting, making sure essential services are up, fixing a broken window or a tiny pipe leak immediately, and catching small cracks in leaning walls. Because think about it. Catching a tiny leaky pipe on a random Tuesday, that prevents a massive structural water damage issue a whole year down the road. Then we step things up with monthly interventions. These are a bit heavier. This is where dedicated maintenance workers get in there to repair paving or fix up plaster. It's also when teams break out the chemical cleaning agents and jet washes to aggressively blast away the mold and fungal growth that tried to set up camp over the past few weeks. Wrapping up this continuous loop, we have the large-scale yearly overhauls. These are the heavy hitters that really fortify the building and keep it looking fantastic and operating safely. We're talking comprehensive exterior painting, rolling out deep protection against insect infestations, and doing major landscaping around the site. The whole shebang to keep the property solid. Now, here's where things shift. The boundary line is that maintenance is essentially scheduled fixes for routine decay. But sometimes, despite our absolute best efforts, a building gets hit with sudden, catastrophic damage. Or maybe we're dealing with a historic structure that's just exhausted from centuries of wear. That's the moment we cross the line from routine maintenance into major, monumental rescues.
Part 2. The Rescue, stepping in after disaster strikes.
Unlike maintenance, you really can't schedule a restoration on your calendar. It is almost always triggered by something catastrophic. We're talking sudden natural disasters, unexpected floods, lightning strikes, hurricanes. Or maybe it's man-made, like a devastating accidental fire. And then you have monumental restoration, which is triggered by the absolute urgent need to save the priceless historical value of a heritage monument and bring it back to its original physical performance. When structural engineers get called in for these monumental rescue missions, they typically go down one of two completely distinct paths. They have to decide right from the start, is this rescue going to be reversible or irreversible? Okay, let's break these down because reversible restoration is absolutely fascinating. It involves adding support systems that are completely independent of the original structure. Imagine strapping a detachable modern steel exoskeleton onto a damaged historic building. It gives it that crucial structural stability without actually permanently altering the original architecture. And the best part? If we invent way better technology 50 years from now, those modern supports can be entirely, safely removed. On the flip side, we have irreversible restoration. Sometimes a reversible fix just isn't going to cut it, especially with certain historic sites. In this case, the structure is strengthened intrinsically. Artisans and engineers will literally interweave new mortar, fresh bricks, or marble directly with the old stuff. It's a permanent fix, beautifully blended in to seamlessly restore a historic wall and keep that homogeneous, authentic look. But here's the thing. Whether we're snapping on a high-tech, detachable modern frame or painstakingly weaving historic bricks by hand, the ultimate goal is exactly the same. Save the building and save its precious embodied carbon. By stepping up to maintain and restore, we're practicing a restorative circular economy that truly respects the materials, the energy, and the history already locked into our built environment. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Next time you walk out your front door, take a fresh look at your urban environment. Seriously, look at the buildings around you. Ask yourself, which ones are actively fighting a scheduled microscopic battle against decay right now, and which ones are just standing there quietly waiting for a monumental rescue? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.